Yeah, cool. Well, hey, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Nice to meet you too.
You bet. And before we get into your esteemed work, I want to know first and foremost, 4 years ago, we were trying to figure this pandemic out. So many
Mhm.
things were happening. How did you make it through that time period, and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Well, I mean, when the pandemic came, like everybody else, I didn't know what was happening. If I knew what was happening now, I would have done a couple of things differently. Like I would have toured New York City. I would have driven around there. I would want to see what that looked like. I was just afraid, like everybody else was, is this going to kill us, this virus? But then after, it settled down and we went sort of on, limited time seeing patients, there was a whole opening of time that came to me, my family, and everybody. So I looked at it as an opportunity. Right in the middle, it started, I guess, in March. I had a bunch of trips planned like everybody else. I was supposed to fly off to Japan to give a talk and to travel, and everything just came to a complete stop. So I looked at it as I go, well, what can I use this time for? Because I had no idea how long it was going to go on. So we started a Monday podcast series with everybody that was in my community. So we had 200 people on every Monday. It was the first time I'd ever used Zoom. I didn't know how to use it, and so we did that as a gift to the community because I brought in different resources, and then I decided I'm going to clean up. So I did the physical cleaning. I cleaned up every room in the office. We have 4 floors of the office. I went through everyone personally myself, and then I just started to clean up the computer system, the strategies, and we organized everything. So I knew that everything was going to come back again. So when everything came back, we hit the ground running. So my partner and I we did a lot of training, and we created a mastermind group with about 18 other periodontists throughout the country, and we met once a week for about 2 hours, and everybody had a different skill. My skill was sort of like I'm the visionary. I look toward the future. I'm like sort of like the Tony Robbins of the group. Let's be real positive. My partner was really good about getting all sorts of personal protection, devices from China at a good price, and so everybody had sort of a different skill. And then when it came back, we came back really, really strong. And I had actually just hired somebody to manage everything right before the pandemic, and I'd hired her, and I said, I gave her a job offer, and she didn't take it. She went somewhere else, um, out of the dental field. And I said, that's probably not going to work out well for you. I said, but go ahead if you think that's the right thing. And it didn't work out well. She came back. I hired her, and then a week later, the pandemic hit. And so I had this new employee that sort of, said no the first time. I go, what am I going to do? So I said, well, what's your skill set? And she taught me how to put on the video. She taught me how to do what we're doing right now and the podcast and all that. And it became a really, really positive thing. That's how I actually ended up writing my book too, because I had more free time. So
Okay. So there were silver linings, definitely.
it's definitely a silver lining. There's an expression in Silicon Valley. I think it's from there. No, you never waste a good crisis.
Yeah.
So in every crisis, there's an opportunity, and everything that great that happens usually comes out of a source of crisis.
Yeah.
My own personal life, I've gone through a lot of personal struggles. Every one of those struggles, I paid a price when I went through them. And I said, as soon as I pay a price, I think if I'm paying a price for whatever's happening, it could be a physical problem, a financial problem, whatever it is, relationship problem. I go, I better learn something from here so it doesn't happen again. And with the pandemic, the first thing I was worried about was safety for my family. I have 3 children. They were scattered around the country. Could my kids die? Could I die? And we were all nervous. And then after I said, we're not going to die from this. Probably not. Some people did, of course. We lost 1 million people, but a lot of people, did not. But we lose millions of people every year to illnesses and diseases, but they're just not talked about. This one, was a hot topic. So I'm not getting political about it, but it was a lot of focus
Yeah.
on this. Yeah,
I totally understand.
I actually lost my first cousin because he was living in Queens. He was
Wow.
mentally disabled, and he wasn't in the best spot. So
Yeah. It was tough out there for sure.
yeah,
So let me ask you this. You're the perfect candidate to be put in front of a bunch of third graders for career day. Let's say this happens and a kid says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
yeah.
you explain what you do on a daily basis?
I improve the quality of people's lives. So I have the opportunity and a great opportunity of getting into contact with people that may come to see me for dental needs, and they may be health related, maybe cosmetic related. They really don't know why they come in to see me exactly. They have a reason, but when they come in, I talk to them about all the benefits they can have by our interaction. And so I look at an opportunity to improve the way people feel about themselves and to improve their health. And I think dentists are, we see more percentage of the population than physicians do. So we have a lot of opportunity to connect with people one on one. And when we can connect with them, we can help them not only on their teeth, but also everything else. So I have a large amount of connections to other professionals. If you come in to see me, Joe, and let's say you have a back problem, I can refer you to an orthopedic surgeon. I can refer you to a chiropractor. I can refer you to an acupuncturist. I have a massage therapist. I have a nutritionist. I have all these people, and we will talk about that. And so I'll be able to help you. So my goal is to always help the people that I come in contact with. So I think that's sort of great. So it's a great profession to go into because we can do whatever you want and you can sort of customize it. So if you're a technician and all you want to do is, fix a tooth or something like that, I mean, you could do that. If you're a humanist, you can talk to people, or you're a business person, you can create a big business and you have people work for you. If you're an organizational person, you can sort of build an organization where you can bring people up through the organization, make them better at what they do. So it's sort of cool, you know.
So when you were in the 3rd grade, what did you want to be? Was it always getting into the dental world? What,
I'll be a fireman.
okay, yeah, I get it.
No, no, I don't know back then in third grade, but I did want to become I was influenced by my orthodontist, who was really, he ran a really cool office. But, in my book, in the first chapter, it's called Blood on a Pavement. It's all about my bike accident. When I was 8 years old, I went over the handlebars of a bike and I knocked out my front teeth. So I had my jaw wired shut for 6 weeks. I had to drink through a straw, eat through a straw. And I had really good care. And at 8 years old, you really don't know what's going on. So I had a really good experience with the oral surgeon. I had to have endodontics done. And when this was 1963, there were only two endodontists in the whole state of Connecticut. So it was a very rare procedure. So I had to find a special guy to do it. And he took care of me. And one of the teeth is still in my mouth, 60 years later, that I knocked out and was put back in. And so I had some good experiences. So I've always really been involved in, healthcare, and I've also been involved in hospitality, which is a big part of my story, which is what my book is about. That's what I wrote during COVID. So I wanted to go into the sciences, and I was encouraged to become a doctor by my parents, and I've always enjoyed that. But I also am a humanist too, so I always like both. So I sort of created a little niche for myself where I can do whatever I want to do. I get to do the science, I get to do the creative part, I get to do the work, help people, but I also get to connect with human beings and create a really cool office where people come in and they feel very comfortable. That's a big part of what we do.
So who's been a hero for you? Who's been ultimately an inspiration for the work that you've done?
Well, there's a few of them. Um, my biggest hero, probably, is a guy named Dennis Tarnow. I don't know if you know the name. He's a periodontist in New York City, and he was clinically, he taught me quite a bit. I met him right out of my residency program, and I worked with him for 30 years at NYU. And he's always had tremendous integrity. He's always been a teacher, an educator, and I think that's a big part of what you need to do. You need to become an educator and a teacher, and you also need to be able to be mentored. So you have to be mentored and mentored others. You pass it on. So he was a big hero. Another one was a guy named Danny Meyer. He is probably the ultimate restaurateur in the world. He's well known for Shake Shack. Everyone knows what a Shake Shack is, but
Yeah.
he really made his mark opening up really fine restaurants in Manhattan. Um, the top restaurants in the world. He had three of them at one point. He had Gramercy Tavern, Union Square Cafe, 11 Madison Park, which was actually the best restaurant in the world at one point. He's since sold that to somebody else and it's been sold again. But at one point, that was the restaurant. And his restaurants are still there 40 years later. He and I began our practices the same year. I opened my practice in 1985. He opened up Union Square Cafe. And his book, Setting the Table, pretty much is the Bible in the restaurant industry and hospitality. And he's a huge hero. Stephen Covey, who wrote Habits of Highly Effective People, basically teaches you how to lead an ethical life. A huge hero. The dean of my dental school, Harold Lowe, who was the father of modern periodontics, he was a hero. He taught me to treat the entire patient, not just the mouth. You were physicians of the oral cavity, and that was really, really important lesson. And I was trained like that, as most dentists are not trained that way. They're trained to do procedures and be very good at certain procedures. They're not trained to treat the human beings. And there's no course in dental school on how to be a good person and how to connect with humans. We don't talk about that. But he was that had that image. There were only 35 people in my graduating class, so we had a lot of high touch with somebody who at the time I didn't know was the father of modern periodontology because I didn't know anything back then. So you only realize where you've been by looking in the rearview mirror. You
Yeah.
look back and you go, "Oh, this is why I'm here. This is why I did this." Where I am today, I didn't sit down when I was 18 and say, "Well, this is where I'm going to be." I'm going to be lecturing all over the world. I'm going to have a successful practice. I'm going to have people working for me. I'm going to be booked months in advance. I'm going to be talking to people like you. I'll be teaching everywhere, writing books. I mean, I just never expect that to happen. It wasn't. And if you saw me in dental school, you never thought I was going to be that guy, but I just got turned on, in my residency program, and I just got really excited about it once I ended up going into the field that I'm in today.
So
So,
what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
oh well, probably from my father. You know,
Yeah.
always tell the truth.
Yeah.
Be your word. Uh, if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember to lie. So you always know it. I think that's really, really good, hard. He gave me some other advice. Um, that was very important. He goes, "One man with courage makes a majority." I thought that was very important. That was actually on my wall, my room, my bedroom. And what it basically meant is nobody can hurt you. So if you're your own person, and you know, you're not. I mean, you're influenced by the people, but you make your own decision, and you have to stick with that. You don't cave to the crowd. Because there's a weakness that you see with that. The mob mentality, wasn't really for me. I didn't like to do that. So he taught me to think independently, and to be strong and never let people put you down, because they can't hurt you. So I remember I broke my ankle. I was 8 years old, and he goes, "No, it's just a sprain." I go, "No, it's," I'm crying. I'm 8, and it was snowing. We went out in the snow, and he took off his shoes and socks in February. He goes, "The snow is good for it." He's standing bare feet in the snow. It's a story I never tell. And, that was a good question, by the way. It's I'm standing in the snow with this broken ankle. And my father's there with his bare feet. He goes, "Yeah, see, it's going to make it better." And next day I was in a cast, and I didn't tell him that he was wrong. I shouldn't have been doing that at age 8, but I just always remember that. He was he was a larger than life character. My father he was a big,
Yeah.
big, strong guy. So,
So there was a lot, you mentioned a lot of names of people that have been heroes and influences. If you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating and spend a little time with them, who would it be?
ooh, that's a good question. Because I find a lot of people fascinating. Right now, I'm reading the biography of Elon Musk. Um, I've been in a room with him. He's pretty powerful. I think he's amazing. He's an amazing visionary. He thinks like not many people do. He also had a really tough father, abusive father though, and he overcame that, and did not let anybody influence, how he got beat up a lot as a kid. He didn't let other people influence him. I think he's a fascinating man. I'd like to spend some one-on-one time with Tony Robbins. I've been in a room with him too, with like 300 people, and it was like probably the most powerful individual I've ever been close to. It was an aura came out him, and he just is knows so much about so many different things and has so much confidence. And he's also another one of my heroes because he is probably the living master of neurolinguistic programming, which is changing people's state so quickly. He's very, very good at that. And sometimes when I'm with someone and they're not in a great place, and my goal is always to help people to get to a better place. I'd like to be able to switch that. How can I change their state? And I try. Sometimes I'm good. I'm pretty good at it, but I mean, it's like I'm a pretty good basketball player, but I'm not LeBron James. He's just phenomenal
Yeah.
at doing that, and I'd like to spend some time with him as well. I like to spend time with people that are visionary. That people that I like are people that are visionaries, that are powerful people that use their power to improve the quality of mankind. Whether it's
Yeah.
one on one, and both of those people have done it on a global level. I don't know
So
anybody else who's changed the world more than Elon Musk for
yeah.
our generation. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we're too close to what he's doing right now. I think it's going to take some time to really pull the camera back and say, "Wow, this is what's happened."
yeah.
Um, so, what is your motivation every day to get up to do the work that you have to give a lot, you're changing people's lives, but you also have to hold back to evolve as a human. What is
Yeah.
that combined force for you?
Combined force, well, it's all supposed to be about being connected spiritually. So you need a spiritual connection to something higher than yourself. So it's all about me. Okay. I mean, how many hamburgers can I eat? How many houses can I live in at the same time? I mean, how much do I need? Is it very little that we actually need? to be happy. And but we all get carried away, and I do too. All I got to do is go on the internet, and it's easy for me to go down a black hole. I go, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Oh, you know, I'm not playing the Olympics this year. I'm not going to be point guard for the New York Knicks this year.
Mm.
I'm not going to be an astronaut. I mean, there's always, I should be president of the United States. I mean, there's always a different level that you want to go to. So, what what do I want to do? What motivates me? My motivates me is to improve the quality of people's lives that I touch. So that's my moonshot is to touch people that I touch on a daily basis to make them feel better. And it's basically a spiritual principle that you get more by giving than receiving. You always feel better when you're able to give. That's why people like to watch other people open up gifts. But that's not a good example of what that is. But it happens on a deeper level. The biggest gift that I like to do is when I am able to give a gift to someone and they don't know that they received it, and I watch them, leading a better life because of that gift. I don't need to be told that was okay because it does. That's not the way it works. So what motivates me every day? It's just, to go out there and to try to do some good. And I'm not a perfectly good person by any means. I'm a very flawed individual. I make mistakes all the time. My defect is pride, arrogance, selfishness, and I can get into that. Knowing that, and I do a lot of work outside of dentistry to be able to learn that, but I bring that back to my dentistry. Dentistry is just what I do. It's not who I am. Who I am is someone who wants to change the quality of people's lives, improve the quality of lives, change their lives through certain habits that I can change. And I bring a lot of the work that I've done outside of dentistry into that. And that's a big part. I'm very holistic in terms of my own life. I think you have to do a lot of things to be healthy. You got to be, you know, you got to exercise, you got to eat right, you got to sleep, you got to meditate, you got to do mindfulness work, you got to do testing, you have good oral health. You have to have a purpose, and you have to have a community, which you live. I mean, all these things they talk about, and things like the blue zones, or a lot of people talk about longevity. I'm very much involved in a longevity community. I've been involved in that, for many, many years. This is where I've been moving toward. But now you see a lot of older, wealthy people that want to, now that they're 70 years old and they're, millionaires. They go, all right, well, life's over. I want to live longer. So there's a lot of money going into longevity. And there's a lot of things that are going into longevity that are not, they're sort of specious. They haven't been proven yet. They're sort of like some snake oil, but the basics are we know about. We know about those, especially those four things, diet, exercise, sleep, and mindfulness. Those are keys.
So of all of the lives that you've changed and clients you've had, what's been one of the most dramatic or memorable ones that you've been a part of?
The Probably early on, it's a girl that I met. I was in practice maybe 2 years, and she grew up very poor. She grew up in a ghetto in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I practiced in Fairfield. I grew up in Bridgeport. I grew up in a very poor, one of the poorest cities in the country, and my practice is 3 miles from where I grew up. So I'm in the next door town, Fairfield, and she came in, and she was beautiful, but she had terrible teeth, and they didn't need much work, but it looked like they did. And I ended up doing some reshaping. When she smiled, she had a very gummy smile. Her teeth were all brown, and I just did a small, simple surgical procedure, showed more teeth, and sent her over to my friend. I said, "Can you please do some bonding for her?" Immediately changed her, and she just felt so good about herself. And I've seen that happen many times where I change someone's smile because they have poor self-esteem. Because when you look at someone, how do you greet them? You're basically looking at the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. This is it. You're not even listening to me. I mean, I'm talking now, but nobody's listening to me. If we're on video, they're looking at me. They're looking at what's in the room, what's around me. But most of the time, it's what you see. Most of our learning and our communication is visual. If you can see. And so when you have a very bad smile, it takes up a third to one half of your space. So it's who you're showing, and you can't get away. You can't hide it. I have patients come in, they talk with their hands in front of their mouth, or, they go, glad COVID's here, I can wear a mask. And so many people come in feeling so bad about themselves, and they're completely without hope. They're hopeless. And so I immediately will give people hope at that first visit, and then telling them where I can take them. And I'll show them befores and afters. And when I can change someone's smile, I'm not talking about the glamorous smile. I'm talking to people who really have terrible teeth that won't even smile. It changes their lives.
Yeah.
And they don't know that. I know that. See, I can see. I joke with patients. I go, I can predict the future. I go, not my own. I go, but yours. And I go, it's going to be really great. There's Charles Revlon, the founder of Revlon Cosmetics. It's Charles Revson. He says, "We don't sell cosmetics." He says, "We sell hope. We don't sell cosmetics. We sell hope." So people put on all, I mean, the makeup industry is billions of dollars more than the dental industry, the cosmetic. I mean, and what do people go there? They want to look better. They want to look like the people in the pictures in the airport when you walk through, or in the magazines or in Vogue. Nobody looks like that. Okay, you see these people in real life, they don't look like that, but they
Yeah.
look like that for that 1 second, the airbrush face. And so what he found that he knew very early on is that you can connect with people emotionally, in their deeper centers, their amygdala, the hippocampus, the deeper parts of the brain, that you connect there in that emotional center, the lizard brain. That's where people can change. You can change behavior. How do you change behavior? By giving someone a significant emotional experience. So when people come in, they're emotionally spent. They don't feel bad, and I tell them that I can make them feel better. They don't believe me. They don't believe me at that point, and I know they're not going to believe me, and I know it's going to take them a while to get there. So what do I love? I love it when a patient finally believes me, gets turned on, gets excited, and trusts me after they've gone through whatever number of experiences they had to go through. I saw a patient yesterday. I said to her, she goes, "I want to be referred." She was referred to me by her brother, but she lived 3 hours away in upstate New York, and she saw this hippy dippy dentist up there that was a nice guy, but wasn't really cutting edge. And she really liked him because he was a good guy and he wore flowered shirts, etc. And she's been my patient for a while, and I've done her implants, I've done her reconstruction. She now needs the teeth, and she says, "Can I go see your dentist?" I said, "I thought you liked your dentist." She says, "He seems like a nice guy, but I no longer trust him." She goes, "I trust you and whatever you say." That was a great moment for me because this woman came in with her mother. She's 50 years old. She comes in with her 80-year-old mother for 3 consultations, driving 2 hours each way before she allowed me to treat her. And then I had to do all sorts of testing, titanium testing, to make sure she wasn't allergic to all these things. And I had to order a specific type of an implant. And she put me through my paces. And I said, I could have easily said, "This is too much. She's a nutcase. I don't want to deal with her." But this was a person in need that was just nervous. So I did it. And I did every test she wanted, and I took her through it. And I've never done that before. I've been doing implants for 40 years. I've never done this many tests. I sent them to some crazy labs that she wanted me to send them to, some with some specious science. And it came back, and I ordered what she wanted, which is a fine implant, but it's not the one I normally would have used. And I treated her, and then she trusted me. And that was really, that made me feel good. I go, I turned to her yesterday because I've known her now for 9 months. I go, "You finally trust me." She smiled. So now she does. And that's where I love to get with patients. They have that great relationship, that one-on-one relationship. That's very special. And that's what drives me, because
Yeah.
that's a spiritual connection with another human being that's greater than myself. And I'm not talking about God or Jesus or, Judaism or whatever you believe in. I'm talking about connecting with another human. I mean, even feel like I'm connecting with you right here,
Yeah.
even though this is all digital.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
you know all about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, patients,
right.
everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm who everybody else thinks I am. So I'm very transparent. I did something called unique ability. I do some training with Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach up in Toronto. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's the leading entrepreneurial educator in the world. He's taught a lot of people who are my mentors, et cetera. And he's 80 years old. He still works really hard. He's still very, very impactful. And as part of our training with him, we do a lot of different things, but one of the things is we do a unique ability. And everybody, you, Joe, me, everybody in the world has a unique ability that's unique to them. So I can teach all the people in the world. I'm never going to teach anybody to be me. I can teach them some concepts, but not me. So I have a certain unique ability, and everybody knows everyone can see it. And as part of the training, I had to send out letters to 40 different people. And I go, "How do you see me? If you were going to describe me to somebody else, what would you say?" I got 40 letters back. And then I spent 8 hours with her name is Julie Waller in Toronto. I spent 8 hours with her in a room, and we defined who I am. Okay. And all 40 letters were the same. They're all the same. He's a guy who is very honest. He's very driven. He always will push us, further than we want to be pushed, even though when we don't like it. And he tries to make everybody better around them all the time. Now, that's not always a good person to be around. If you're around, all the great coaches, Um, who's the Cowboy coach? Tom Landry,
Yeah.
Pat Riley, in basketball. All these coaches are very tough to be around. They're dealing with egomaniacs, and they have to be sort of like really tough around them. But they push people to be who they want to be by getting them to do the things they don't want to do. And that's what I do. I was on a phone last night with one of my residents, and she's not a resident anymore. She's like 48. But I still think of her as a resident. And she's brilliant. She's one of the better periodontists and prosthodontists in the world. And she had seen one of my patients, and I didn't like the way she managed the patient. Although she's clinically excellent, she missed something. And I told her about it. And we're having this conversation. She goes, "Is this patient coming back?" I said, no, the patient's not coming back because you weren't present. You weren't present when that patient was in your chair. You didn't give her the time that she needed, and you immediately jumped to a conclusion. And I go, and she doesn't trust you. And she started getting very defensive. I said, "I'm not talking to you." She goes, "I'm 48 years old. I'm not your resident anymore." I go, "I don't care how old you are. You made a mistake with this patient, and I'm not telling you this so you can manage the relationship because your relationship with her is over." I go, "But if you're doing it here, you're probably doing it with other people." She goes, "Well, you're not my father." I go, "I know I'm not your father." I said, "But I can see something in you that needs to change, and you respect me enough that you're going to listen to me." And we had a conversation. I was on the phone with her. I looked at it. It was 37 minutes last night. It was to help her, because I'm sending her patients. She's like an hour and a half from me, and I need a good dentist in that part of the state. So, I don't need any more patients. I'm booked 4 months in advance. I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm not building my reputation anymore. That's built a long time ago. It was really for her. And so, how does she see me? When we're done with the conversation, she started laughing. She says, "This is why I love you." She was really angry with me, but at the end, she goes, "I'd like to have dinner with you, your wife, and me and my husband." I said, "This will be a good dinner." Now, I have no interest in having that dinner. Okay, but I knew that she changed, and
Yeah.
she's going to look at it. And I told my wife when I come home, I go, "Do you want to have dinner?" She goes, "No." She goes, "But she's going to be thinking about that conversation and talking to her husband about that because you made her think about who
Yeah.
she was being." So that's how people see me. People see me as some people either like me or dislike me. And you probably feel the same way, right? You have a strong opinion of me already, and we don't know each other well because I lead with who I am. And not everybody likes who people are. So what happens out there, I'm going on too long to stop me, but
No, you're fine.
this is an important point. What
Sure.
happens out there is there's a lot of ambiguity in the world. People don't always communicate with each other honestly, openly. And so they give you mixed messages. And that leads to hypertension, stress, clenching, grinding, increased cortisol. It makes people very stressed out, and you're not really effective. And so when I'm very clear and direct, so a lot of people say, "Nope, don't want to deal with that. I don't like what he's saying because I don't want to listen to that." Now my problem that I have is sometimes I tell people some things that they don't want to hear. I try to do it in a kind way, but it's not always kind to listen to something like that. So I think people will say to me, I know how people look at me. They think I'm very capable, that I'm very good at what I do. But some people will find that I'm a little too intense and they don't want to work with me. I work with very few dentists. I have a small crowd. I don't really need any referrals because I'm self-referral practice at this point. I refer more out than I get in. I can only probably see one new patient a day, and I'm booked until November right now. And because the people that I treat get comprehensive care, and the people that are already patients at the practice want to continue to go on with treatment. So I'm out there. I don't get that many referrals from that many people in my town. They don't want to deal with me because I'm going to be holding them to a higher level. So Joe, if you're working with me and the crown doesn't fit, I'm going to call you up. I say, the crown could be done a little bit better. Would you mind redoing it? And almost nobody in my field will do that to another dentist. They
Yeah.
just won't do it because you're afraid that they're not going to like you. So then you would lead this double life of like, "Oh, I got to work with them. This is what I got to do." It's really, and that's why one of the things that you asked me very early on, what was the most important thing you learned, was always tell the truth. I learned that from my dad,
Yeah.
always tell the truth. So
Well, I like you. If you won't mind holding up your book, I want to encourage everyone to go out and grab your book. And
sure.
if anyone wants to pick it up or reach out, learn more about you, where's the best place to do it?
You can just Google my name, michaelsonick.com. I have a website. I teach programs on culture. I teach surgery. I teach implants. I teach grafting. I do keynote presentations. I have an online program that they can take where they can learn these principles. You can get the book online at Amazon, or you can get an Audible if you don't want to read, or digital. So it's all out there. It's pretty easy to
I,
get.
This is wonderful. I really have enjoyed this, Michael. Thank you, sir. Thank you for what you're doing, the work you're doing, and thanks for taking time out today.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate being a guest.
Yes, sir. Best of luck.